Jesus ate the same meal almost every single day of his life, and most Christians have never been told what it was. Not just what he ate, but who made it, how she made it, and what it actually looked, smelled, and tasted like. Today, we are going back 2,000 years, to a small house in Bethany, to a woman who cooked for the Son of God almost every single time he visited. And by the end of this video, you will never read the Gospels the same way again. First, let's clear something up, because most people get this wrong. When you hear Mary cooked for Jesus, you probably picture his mother, Mary of Nazareth. And yes, when Jesus was a child, she cooked for him every day. She baked his bread. She made his stew. She was the first woman who ever fed him. But during his ministry, those 3 years of teaching and traveling, the woman who cooked for him most was not his mother. It was a woman named Martha, Martha of Bethany, sister of Mary and Lazarus. Luke chapter 10, verses 38 to 42. Martha opened her home. Martha served. Martha prepared the meals. Her sister Mary sat down and listened to Jesus. But Martha cooked. She is the real person behind this story, and she deserves the credit. So now, let's step inside her kitchen. Let's see exactly what she made. Every single morning started before the sun came up. Martha would kneel on the cold stone floor of her kitchen. She would reach into a large clay jar filled with barley grain. Not wheat. Barley. Wheat was expensive, the grain of the rich. Barley was cheaper, heavier, more filling. Even wealthy families kept barley because it was practical. She would pour the grain into a heavy stone bowl and grind it slowly, pressing, crushing, turning hard kernels into rough flour. This took 20 to 30 minutes every single morning. No machines. No shortcuts. Then she mixed the flour with water, olive oil, and a piece of yesterday's dough. That old dough was the yeast. There were no packets of yeast back then. You saved a lump from the day before. Let it sit overnight. And it made the new bread rise. She kneaded the dough by hand, 5, 7, sometimes 10 minutes, then covered it and let it rest for an hour. While the dough was rising, she lit the oven, a dome-shaped clay oven in the courtyard. She burned dried animal dung mixed with straw. It sounds strange, but dried dung burns slow and even. It produces perfect steady heat. When the stones inside were white hot, she flattened the dough into circles, pressed her fingertips into the surface, and laid each round directly onto the hot pebbles inside. 2 or 3 minutes per side. The bread would sizzle, blister, and come out golden brown, bumpy from the stones, smoky, warm. That was breakfast. That was lunch. That was the base of every meal. In fact, the Hebrew word for bread, lehem, literally meant food. If someone said, "Let's eat bread," they were simply saying, "Let's eat." Bread was not a side dish. Bread was everything. Now here's the part most people never hear about. The real meal, the one that mattered, happened at night. Martha would start cooking hours before sunset. She would scoop dried red lentils from a clay jar, small, flat, deep orange. She rinsed them 3 times and picked out the tiny stones mixed in with them. These lentils were not ordinary food. They were famous. This is the exact same stew that Jacob made for his brother Esau in Genesis chapter 25. The one Esau traded his entire birthright to eat. 1 bowl of lentil stew. That is how good it was, or how hungry he was. Martha would heat olive oil in a round clay pot over a small fire. In went chopped onions, then crushed garlic, 3 or 4 cloves, smashed flat with a stone. The smell would fill the entire house. Then the spices: cumin, coriander, maybe a touch of dill. These were not special or expensive spices. They were everyday kitchen herbs. We know this because Jesus himself mentioned them. In Matthew chapter 23, verse 23, he criticized the religious leaders for carefully measuring out their mint, dill, and cumin while ignoring what truly mattered. He knew these spices. He ate these spices. They were on his table every night. The spices hit the hot oil and released their smell in one wave. Then in went the lentils. Then water. A slow simmer for 30 to 40 minutes. The lentils broke down and became thick, like a warm, golden brown porridge. A pinch of coarse salt at the end, stirred in slowly. And then the family gathered. No chairs, no table as we know it today. Everyone reclined on cushions and mats on the floor, leaning on their left side, eating with their right hand. One bowl in the center. Everyone ate from it together. You tore a piece of flatbread, folded it, scooped the stew, and ate. The bread was your spoon. The bread was your plate. The bread was your utensil. This was the daily meal of Jesus of Nazareth. But sometimes, not every night, the meal was different. Near the Sea of Galilee, where Jesus spent most of his ministry, there was fish. Fresh Galilean tilapia, today called St. Peter's fish. It was salted, grilled over open coals, rubbed with olive oil and herbs. 5 minutes per side. The skin would crackle. The flesh would go white and soft and fall apart at the touch. And here is something incredible. After his resurrection, Jesus himself cooked fish. John chapter 21. He stood on the shore of the Sea of Galilee, a charcoal fire already burning, fish on the coals, bread beside it. He called out to his disciples, "Come and have breakfast." The risen Son of God, grilling fish on the beach at dawn for his friends. That is one of the most human moments in the entire New Testament. Meat was rare, very rare. Most families only ate meat at weddings, religious festivals, or when an important guest arrived. When Abraham welcomed strangers in Genesis chapter 18, he ran to his herd and chose a young calf. That was extraordinary. That was pulling out everything he had. Jesus was an observant Jew. He followed the dietary laws of Leviticus chapter 11 strictly. No pork, no shellfish. All meat had to be slaughtered the right way, blood fully drained before cooking. Blood was considered sacred. You never consumed it. And meat and dairy were never mixed in the same dish. Ever. The drink with every meal was wine mixed with water. 2 parts water, 1 part wine. The alcohol helped make the water safer to drink. It was practical, not indulgent. Honey was the only sweetener. There was no sugar. A drizzle of honey on bread was considered a luxury. The Promised Land itself was described as a land flowing with milk and honey, because honey was that precious. And then, there was one final meal, the most important meal in all of history, the Passover. Roast lamb, unleavened bread, flat, no yeast, baked in a hurry, just like the Israelites made when they fled Egypt. Bitter herbs to remember the pain of slavery. 4 cups of wine. Jesus took that bread, the most common, most ordinary food in the ancient world. He broke it, and he said, "This is my body, given for you." He took the wine, and he said, "This is my blood of the covenant, poured out for many." Bread and wine, the food of the poor, the food of everyone, transformed into the most sacred symbols in all of Christianity. So that is what they cooked for Jesus every day. Bread ground and baked before the sun came up. Lentil stew, simmered slowly with cumin and garlic, olives, figs, and cheese, fish when it was available, meat when something was worth celebrating, wine mixed with water, honey for sweetness, everything shared from one common bowl, eaten with torn bread, sitting on the floor of a borrowed room. And the woman behind most of those meals, the one grinding the grain, lighting the oven, stirring the pot, placing the food in front of him, was Martha, the one the Bible calls distracted by all the preparations. Jesus gently told her to slow down, not because her work did not matter, but because he was sitting right there in her home, and that moment would not come again. Martha cooked, Mary listened, and Jesus, the carpenter's son from Nazareth, who grew up on barley bread and lentil stew, he ate what was given to him. With gratitude, with people he loved, at a simple table on the floor. And somehow, that simple meal became eternal. If this video made you see the Gospels differently, share it with someone who loves history. And if you want to go deeper into the real daily life of the biblical world, stay right here. There is so much more to discover.